Ladies and gentlemen, today I invite you to embark on a journey toward a better you version of yourself, where the greatest treasures lie not in external possessions, but within the creative power of your own mind. In this journey, there are certain pitfalls that must be avoided, behaviors that, like chains, bind you to a lesser version of yourself. And in freeing yourself from these, you unlock the potential to create, to manifest, and to live in alignment with your deepest desires. Negative self-talk is one of the most insidious behaviors that can prevent you from realizing your potential. It often operates subtly, creeping into your thoughts without you even realizing its impact. Every time you think or say something negative about yourself, you reinforce a limiting belief, solidifying an image of yourself that is small, incapable, or unworthy. The mind is incredibly powerful, and it will always strive to align your outer reality with the inner narrative you consistently tell. If that narrative is one of failure, inadequacy, or unworthiness, then you will begin to see those qualities reflected in your life, relationships, and experiences. The way you speak to yourself is in fact a creative act. Every thought you entertain, every phrase you utter about yourself is like casting a spell. Words carry energy, and that energy shapes your internal and external worlds. When you say things like, "I can't do this" or "I'm not good enough," you are not merely making observations, you are cementing those ideas as truths. And in doing so, you close yourself off from the vast possibilities that life offers. You limit your own power by placing a ceiling on what you believe is achievable. It is important to understand that the subconscious mind is always listening, always absorbing the messages you give it. Unlike the conscious mind, the subconscious does not question or analyze, it simply accepts what it is given and works to manifest those beliefs into your reality. If you continually feed it negativity, it will mirror those thoughts in the circumstances and experiences you encounter. You begin to attract situations, people, and outcomes that validate the narrative you've internalized. What makes negative self-talk particularly dangerous is that it often goes unnoticed. It becomes a background noise, a constant hum that accompanies your daily life. You may not even realize how frequently you criticize yourself, diminish your achievements, or question your worth. But over time, these thoughts accumulate, forming a foundation upon which your sense of self is built. The more you indulge in negative self-talk, the more difficult it becomes to break free from it, because it starts to feel like reality. You convince yourself that this is just who you are when, in truth, it is merely a reflection of your current thought patterns. To change this, you must first become aware of the language you use when speaking to yourself. Pay attention to the internal dialogue that runs through your mind. Notice the moments when you judge yourself harshly or predict failure before even trying. Awareness is the first step toward change, because you cannot transform what you do not acknowledge. Once you become conscious of your self-talk, you can begin to shift it. Instead of allowing negative thoughts to dominate, you can deliberately replace them with empowering, positive affirmations. This process requires persistence and patience. Negative self-talk is often deeply ingrained, the result of years of conditioning and societal programming. You may not be able to silence those critical voices overnight, but with consistent effort, you can weaken their grip. Begin by challenging the thoughts that arise. Ask yourself, is this really true? More often than not, you will find that your self-criticisms are exaggerated or entirely baseless. Then, consciously choose to rewrite the narrative. Replace "I can't" with "I can." Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," say, "I am capable of growth and improvement." As you continue this practice, something remarkable happens. Your perception of yourself begins to shift. Your mind, no longer confined by negativity, starts to open up to new possibilities. You begin to see opportunities where there once were only obstacles. You find strength where you previously saw weakness. Your sense of self-worth grows, and with it, your capacity to create the life you desire. The mind is a garden, and your thoughts are the seeds. If you plant seeds of doubt, fear, and limitation, you will reap a harvest of disappointment. But if you plant seeds of confidence, positivity, and self-love, your life will bloom with abundance. The choice is always yours. Procrastination is a subtle form of self-sabotage, a behavior that prevents you from aligning with your goals and aspirations. It often masquerades as harmless delay, but in reality it creates a gap between intention and action, making it increasingly difficult to bring your desires into reality. Every time you put off a task, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, you reinforce a habit of inaction. And the longer you delay, the more daunting the task becomes, creating a cycle of avoidance that leads to stagnation. One of the most harmful aspects of procrastination is the illusion that there will always be more time. We often tell ourselves that we'll start tomorrow, or next week, or when conditions are just right. But this belief that there's an ideal moment to begin is deceptive. Conditions will never be perfect. There will always be distractions, obstacles, or uncertainties. Waiting for the perfect moment is simply an excuse to avoid stepping into the discomfort of action. What we fail to realize is that the act of starting, no matter how imperfectly, is the key to momentum. Once you take that first step, the next one becomes easier, and progress starts to build. Procrastination isn't just about delaying tasks, it's about delaying growth. Every goal, every ambition requires action to come to fruition. When you procrastinate, you put a hold on your own development. Whether it's a career goal, a personal project, or even a relationship, the longer you wait to engage with it, the more opportunities slip by unnoticed. Time, once lost, cannot be reclaimed. And while the consequences of procrastination may not be immediately visible, they accumulate over time, leading to a sense of unfulfilled potential and regret. There is also an emotional toll that comes with procrastination. As you continually delay action, a sense of guilt or anxiety begins to set in. You become aware, even subconsciously, that you are not living up to your own expectations. This creates an internal conflict, a tension between what you know you should be doing and what you're actually doing. This tension can sap your energy and enthusiasm, making it even harder to take action. Over time, procrastination can erode your confidence as you begin to question your ability to follow through on your commitments, not just to others, but to yourself. At the root of procrastination is often fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the unknown. When faced with a task that challenges you, there's a natural instinct to avoid it in order to protect yourself from potential disappointment or discomfort. But this fear, though understandable, is misplaced. Growth and progress always come with a certain level of discomfort. Every new venture, every goal worth pursuing, requires you to stretch beyond your current limitations. By avoiding that discomfort, you also avoid the very experiences that lead to personal growth and achievement. Procrastination can also be tied to perfectionism, the belief that you must wait until you are fully prepared or until you can execute something flawlessly, often leads to indefinite delays. Perfectionism creates unrealistic standards that are impossible to meet, paralyzing you in a state of inaction. You become trapped in an endless loop of preparation, constantly refining and planning, but never actually doing. The truth is, there will never be a perfect moment to start, and you will never be perfectly prepared. The path to success is messy, filled with mistakes and learning along the way. But by waiting for perfection, you deny yourself the opportunity to evolve through experience. In many ways, procrastination is a defense mechanism. It's a way of protecting yourself from the vulnerability that comes with taking action. To act is to expose yourself to judgment, to failure, to the possibility of not meeting your expectations. But it's also the only way to achieve anything of value. Every great accomplishment, no matter how monumental, began with a single step forward, and that step required the individual to overcome the inertia of procrastination, to act despite fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Another overlooked aspect of procrastination is the ripple effect it has on other areas of life. When you delay action in one area, it often spills over into others. If you consistently put off important tasks, it can create a backlog of unfinished business, leading to stress and overwhelm. This, in turn, can affect your mental clarity, emotional well-being, and even your relationships. Procrastination, in this sense, becomes a habit, a way of being that permeates your life, making it difficult to maintain focus, discipline, and forward momentum in all aspects of your existence. It's important to recognize that procrastination is not a reflection of laziness or lack of ambition. It is a pattern of behavior that can be changed, but only through conscious effort. Many people who struggle with procrastination are highly capable and have grand visions for their lives. However, their fear of stepping into the unknown, or their desire for perfection, holds them back from realizing those visions. The key to breaking free from procrastination is to take action in small, manageable steps. By starting with one small task, you build confidence and momentum, which then makes it easier to tackle larger, more complex tasks. Procrastination robs you of the most valuable resource you have: time. Time is finite, and how you choose to use it determines the quality and trajectory of your life. When you delay action, you are not just postponing tasks, you are postponing the fulfillment of your potential. Each moment that passes is an opportunity to create, to grow, to move closer to your goals. But when you procrastinate, those moments slip away, leaving you with nothing but the weight of what could have been. Fear of failure is one of the most paralyzing forces that can hold a person back from realizing their true potential. It stems from a deep-seated belief that making mistakes or experiencing setbacks reflects a fundamental inadequacy, and this belief creates an intense desire to avoid situations where failure is possible. Instead of viewing failure as a natural part of growth, it becomes something to be feared and avoided at all costs. The fear itself often becomes larger than the actual event of failing, turning into a mental barrier that limits action, progress, and personal development. At its core, the fear of failure is often tied to our identity and sense of self-worth. Many people equate their achievements or successes with their value as individuals. When failure occurs, it is not seen as just a temporary setback or a learning experience. Instead, it feels like a direct reflection of who they are. The fear, then, is not just about the failure itself, but about the judgment that follows, whether from others or from within. It's the fear that failing means being seen as inadequate, incompetent, or unworthy. This creates a high-stakes environment where even the smallest possibility of failure feels like a threat to one's very identity. Because of this fear, many people avoid taking risks or pursuing new opportunities. They stay within the comfort zone, where they feel safe and in control. However, this safety is an illusion. By avoiding failure, they are also avoiding the chance to grow, learn, and evolve. Sticking to what's familiar may prevent failure, but it also prevents success. Opportunities for growth lie beyond the boundaries of what is known, and to reach them requires the willingness to face uncertainty and the potential for failure. Yet for many, the thought of stepping into the unknown is overwhelming, and they retreat to what feels secure, even if it means remaining stagnant. This fear of failure can manifest in subtle ways. Sometimes it leads to perfectionism, where the individual becomes so focused on avoiding mistakes that they never feel ready to start or complete a task. They get caught in an endless cycle of preparation, tweaking, and refining, but never actually take the plunge. The desire to do everything perfectly the first time becomes a way to protect themselves from failure, but in reality, it's just another form of avoidance. The pursuit of perfection becomes a way of delaying action indefinitely, ensuring that failure never has a chance to happen because nothing ever gets finished. In other cases, the fear of failure leads to procrastination. When faced with a task or challenge that carries the risk of failure, some people delay taking action altogether. By not starting, they protect themselves from the possibility of failing, but they also prevent any chance of success. This avoidance strategy might provide temporary relief, but it creates long-term consequences. The tasks pile up, the pressure builds, and the fear of failure intensifies as the stakes grow higher. Eventually, the individual may feel overwhelmed by both the looming possibility of failure and the mounting evidence of their inaction. Fear of failure can also cause people to lower their aspirations and settle for less than they are capable of achieving. When the fear becomes too strong, it's easier to shrink your goals and pursue something safer, something that feels attainable without much risk. But in doing so, they limit their own potential. The fear convinces them that aiming for something greater will only lead to disappointment, so they choose paths that are comfortable but unchallenging. This self-limiting behavior creates a cycle of mediocrity, where they never push themselves beyond what they already know, and as a result, they miss out on the chance to discover their true capabilities. Another effect of the fear of failure is how it distorts the way people interpret setbacks or mistakes. Instead of seeing failure as a normal part of the learning process, it's viewed as final and catastrophic. When failure occurs, it's taken as a confirmation of one's worst fears that they aren't good enough or capable enough. This mindset makes it difficult to recover from failure because it turns every setback into an overwhelming emotional experience. The pain of failure becomes so intense that it discourages further attempts, reinforcing the belief that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. However, failure itself is rarely as damaging as the fear surrounding it. In most cases, failure is a temporary condition, a single moment in time that passes and provides valuable insights for future attempts. The fear, on the other hand, creates a long-lasting barrier that prevents progress and growth. It magnifies the consequences of failure in the mind, making them seem larger and more devastating than they actually are. This exaggerated perception of failure keeps people trapped in their current circumstances, unable to move forward because they believe the risk of failure outweighs the potential rewards. The impact of the fear of failure extends beyond individual goals and ambitions. It can affect relationships, careers, and personal fulfillment. In relationships, fear of failure may cause people to avoid vulnerability, fearing that being open and authentic might lead to rejection or disappointment. In the workplace, it can result in missed opportunities, as individuals may shy away from leadership roles or challenging projects due to the fear of not being able to succeed. On a personal level, it can lead to a sense of dissatisfaction, as people realize they are living below their potential, but feel unable to break free from the fear that holds them back. Fear of failure is not just about avoiding failure itself, it's about avoiding the possibility of discomfort, embarrassment, or criticism. It's about maintaining the appearance of control, even if that means staying in a place of safety and predictability. But in doing so, people rob themselves of the richness that life has to offer. Failure is an inevitable part of the human experience, and with it comes growth, resilience, and wisdom. Yet the fear of it keeps many from ever realizing what they are truly capable of. This fear, though deeply ingrained, is a barrier to the kind of meaningful, fulfilling life that can only be achieved through risk, challenge, and yes, sometimes failure. Blaming others is a behavior that often feels justified in the moment, but ultimately becomes a barrier to personal growth and empowerment. When things don't go as planned, or when difficulties arise, it can be tempting to shift the responsibility onto someone or something external. This habit provides temporary relief by placing the burden of accountability elsewhere, but in the long term, it perpetuates a mindset of victimhood and helplessness. Each time you blame someone else for a negative outcome, you effectively give away your power to change the situation or to learn from it. At its core, blaming others stems from an unwillingness to face uncomfortable truths about our own role in the events of our lives. It's far easier to point a finger at external circumstances, whether it be a colleague, a partner, or even society at large, than to confront our own mistakes, limitations, or poor decisions. This deflection protects the ego from the sting of failure or criticism, but it also blocks self-awareness and personal development. When the focus is always on what others did wrong, you miss the opportunity to reflect on what you could do differently to create better outcomes. Blame also creates a false sense of control. By blaming others, you convince yourself that if only external conditions were different, everything would be better. This narrative makes it seem like the solution lies outside of yourself, in the actions or behavior of others. But in reality, true control comes from acknowledging that while you may not have power over every external event, you do have control over your reactions, your decisions, and your mindset. Blame shifts this power away from you, making it harder to take meaningful steps toward change. Moreover, blaming others can lead to strained relationships. When blame is the default response, it creates an environment of defensiveness and mistrust. People feel attacked, and rather than fostering cooperation or understanding, blame drives a wedge between individuals. Now, over time, this can erode communication and build resentment. In personal relationships, whether romantic, familial, or professional, constantly blaming others damages the connection and makes it difficult to resolve conflicts in a healthy, constructive way. Blame is also closely tied to a fixed mindset, where people believe that their abilities and circumstances are unchangeable. In this mindset, failure is seen as a personal flaw, something to be avoided at all costs. When something goes wrong, rather than viewing it as an opportunity to learn or grow, people in a fixed mindset look for external reasons to explain the failure. By blaming others, they avoid confronting the belief that they themselves might need to adapt, improve, or take a different approach. This limits their ability to evolve because they never take ownership of their own growth process. Another consequence of blaming others is that it prevents accountability. Taking responsibility for your actions, choices, and outcomes is crucial for personal empowerment. When you accept accountability, you give yourself the ability to make changes, learn from mistakes, and improve future outcomes. Blame, on the other hand, keeps you stuck in a loop of repetition, where the same problems continue to surface because you're not addressing the underlying issues. Without accountability, there's no room for improvement, and you remain in a state of dependency on external factors to determine your success or happiness. Blaming others can also contribute to a sense of dissatisfaction with life. When you're constantly focused on what others are doing wrong or how external circumstances are unfair, it fosters a mindset of negativity and frustration. You start to see the world as something that's happening to you, rather than something you have a role in shaping. This perspective breeds cynicism and can lead to feelings of bitterness or powerlessness. Rather than feeling like an active participant in your own life, you become a passive observer, waiting for circumstances to change before you can move forward. In many cases, the habit of blaming others is learned early in life. It might come from watching adults or authority figures deflect responsibility, or it might be reinforced by environments that discourage personal accountability. Over time, it becomes an ingrained behavior, one that feels automatic and often goes unnoticed. However, like any habit, it can be unlearned. The first step is recognizing the tendency to blame and understanding how it limits your growth and your ability to take charge of your own life. Once you become aware of it, you can begin to consciously choose a different response, one that focuses on responsibility and self-reflection. Blaming others also distracts from the bigger picture. Life is complex, and most situations are influenced by a multitude of factors. Focusing on blame narrows your perspective, preventing you from seeing the full range of possibilities for change and improvement. It encourages a black and white view of situations, where someone is either right or wrong, responsible or innocent. But in reality, most situations involve shades of gray, where multiple factors, including your own choices, play a role in the outcome. By moving away from blame and toward understanding, you open yourself up to a more nuanced and empowering way of seeing the world. Blaming others perpetuates a mindset of separation. It reinforces the idea that you are isolated from those around you, that their actions and your outcomes are disconnected. But in truth, we are all interconnected, and the way we interact with others, the choices we make, and the attitudes we hold all contribute to the collective experience. When you blame others, you distance yourself from this interconnectedness and miss the opportunity to collaborate, grow, and find solutions together. Instead of seeing others as part of the problem, you can choose to see them as part of the process of growth and transformation. Living in the past is a behavior that keeps individuals trapped in a cycle of regret, nostalgia, or unresolved emotions. When you constantly focus on past experiences, whether they were moments of happiness or pain, you remove yourself from the present moment, the only time in which real change, growth, and creation can occur. The past, while important for learning and reflection, can become a prison when it dominates your thoughts and prevents you from engaging with the present and future possibilities. One of the primary reasons people get stuck in the past is due to unresolved emotions. When painful experiences are not properly processed, they can leave a lingering imprint on the mind, replaying over and over like a loop. You may dwell on what you could have done differently, what others should have done, or how things might have turned out. This rumination creates a state of mental paralysis where the same thoughts and emotions are recycled, but no progress is made in moving forward. The more you revisit these memories, the stronger their emotional charge becomes, making it harder to break free from the past. Living in the past can also be a way of avoiding the uncertainties of the present and the future. The past is known, it's familiar and fixed, and for some it provides a sense of comfort. Even if the memories are painful, they are predictable, unlike the unknown future, which can provoke fear or anxiety. This attachment to the past may feel like a safe refuge from the unpredictability of life, but it comes at the cost of personal evolution. By clinging to the past, you limit your ability to embrace new opportunities, relationships, and experiences that could lead to growth and fulfillment. Another way people live in the past is through nostalgia, particularly when they idealize certain moments or periods in their lives. They may romanticize the good old days, believing that those times were somehow better than the present. This selective memory filters out the challenges and difficulties that likely existed during those moments, focusing only on the positives. While reminiscing can bring comfort or joy, excessive nostalgia can create dissatisfaction with the present. The more you long for a past that no longer exists, the more you disconnect from the richness and potential of the current moment. Living in the past also impacts your relationships. When your mind is focused on past experiences, you may struggle to be fully present with the people in your life. You may hold on to grudges or unresolved conflicts, projecting old wounds onto current interactions. This can prevent you from forming deep, authentic connections because you are not truly engaging with the present version of the people around you. Instead, you filter your interactions through the lens of past experiences, limiting your ability to see others and yourself as dynamic, evolving beings capable of growth and change. People live in the past because they are seeking validation for their current circumstances. They may hold on to past achievements or failures as a way to justify where they are now. For instance, someone who experienced success in the past may use those memories to feel better about their current situation, even if it no longer reflects who they are or what they are capable of. On the other hand, someone who has experienced failure may continue to identify with that failure, allowing it to define their self-worth and limit their future possibilities. In both cases, the past becomes a crutch, preventing individuals from fully embracing the present and their potential to create something new. Living in the past also creates a sense of stagnation. Life is constantly moving forward, evolving and changing, but when you're stuck in past memories or regrets, you remain in a state of inertia. You may resist new challenges or opportunities because they require you to let go of what was and step into the unknown. This resistance to change can lead to feelings of frustration, disappointment, or even depression, as you realize that life is passing by while you remain mentally anchored in a time that no longer exists. The energy that could be used to create new experiences is instead consumed by replaying old ones, leaving little room for growth. In some cases, living in the past is a way of avoiding responsibility for the present. It can be easier to blame past circumstances, decisions, or other people for your current situation than to take ownership of where you are now. When you constantly reference the past as the source of your present difficulties, you create a narrative in which you are powerless to change your circumstances. This mindset keeps you locked in a cycle of victimhood, where the past is seen as an immovable force that controls your life, rather than something you have the power to transcend. The habit of living in the past also disrupts your ability to set and pursue future goals. When your focus is on what has already happened, it becomes difficult to envision a different future or to take action toward creating one. Your energy is consumed by what was, leaving little room for what could be. As a result, you may find yourself repeating the same patterns, stuck in a loop of familiar experiences rather than forging new paths. This lack of forward momentum can lead to feelings of frustration, as you wonder why things never seem to change, despite your desire for something more. Living in the past can also distort your perception of time. When you are constantly revisiting old memories or dwelling on past mistakes, it creates the illusion that time is standing still. You may feel like you're not making progress in life because your mind is tethered to events that have already passed. This distorted sense of time can make it difficult to appreciate the progress you've made or to recognize the opportunities that are available to you in the present. The past becomes a kind of mental anchor, weighing you down and preventing you from moving forward with clarity and purpose. Living in the past robs you of the opportunity to fully engage with the present moment. The present is where life is happening, where you have the power to make choices, take action, and shape your future. By constantly looking backward, you miss the beauty, possibilities, and growth that exist right now. While the past may hold valuable lessons or cherished memories, it is not a place to live. The only way to move forward is to release your attachment to what was and open yourself to the limitless potential of what could be. Seeking validation from others is a behavior rooted in the desire for external approval and affirmation. It stems from the belief that your worth, success, or happiness is dependent on how others perceive you. While it's natural to want recognition or praise, constantly seeking validation from external sources can become a limiting habit that undermines self-confidence and personal growth. When you rely on the opinions or approval of others to feel good about yourself, you hand over your sense of self-worth to forces outside your control. At the heart of seeking validation is often an underlying insecurity or lack of self-belief. People who habitually seek validation tend to question their own abilities, decisions, or value, and look to others to confirm that they are doing the right thing or that they are worthy. This reliance on external feedback creates a cycle of dependence, where your self-esteem becomes tied to how others respond to you. As a result, your sense of identity is shaped more by what others think of you than by your own inner understanding of who you are and what you value. This constant need for approval can lead to people-pleasing behavior. When you seek validation, you may go out of your way to accommodate others, even at the expense of your own needs or desires. You become focused on saying the right thing, doing what others expect, or conforming to social norms in order to receive positive feedback. While this might bring temporary approval, it ultimately creates a disconnect between your true self and the version of yourself you present to the world. Over time, this can lead to feelings of frustration or resentment, as you realize that you are not living authentically, but rather shaping your life around others' expectations. Validation can also stifle creativity and innovation. When you're constantly concerned with what others think, you're less likely to take risks or pursue ideas that deviate from the norm. Fear of criticism or rejection can hold you back from exploring new possibilities or expressing your unique perspective. Instead of following your own instincts and passions, you might choose the safer route that is more likely to gain approval. This fear of judgment prevents you from tapping into your full potential as you prioritize external acceptance over your own creative expression. Another consequence of seeking validation is that it can lead to a lack of fulfillment. When your sense of self-worth is based on external validation, you are constantly chasing the next compliment, approval, or recognition. This creates a never-ending cycle where no amount of praise or approval ever feels like enough. Once the initial satisfaction wears off, you find yourself seeking more validation, always looking for the next source of affirmation to fill the void. This external focus keeps you from developing a deep sense of inner contentment and self-acceptance, as you are always dependent on others for your sense of worth. Seeking validation also makes you vulnerable to manipulation. When people know that you crave approval, they can use this to their advantage, influencing your decisions or behavior by withholding or offering praise. This can lead to situations where you compromise your values or make choices that aren't in your best interest, simply to gain approval or avoid rejection. Over time, this erodes your autonomy and self-respect as you become more focused on pleasing others than on staying true to yourself. The need for validation can cloud your judgment, making it difficult to discern what is right for you versus what will earn you approval from others. Validation can create an unhealthy dynamic in relationships. When you constantly look to others for validation, you may place an undue burden on them to meet your emotional needs. This can lead to dependency, where you rely on your partner, friends, or family to provide the reassurance and affirmation that should come from within. It can also create an imbalance in the relationship, where your happiness becomes contingent on the other person's approval, rather than being rooted in your own sense of self-worth. This dynamic can strain relationships, as it places pressure on others to constantly provide validation, and may lead to frustration or tension over time. Seeking validation can also hinder personal growth and self-discovery. When you are focused on what others think, you may avoid exploring new interests, opinions, or paths that might challenge or upset those around you. You may stick to familiar roles or behaviors that have earned approval in the past, even if they no longer align with your true self. This prevents you from evolving and discovering who you truly are beyond the expectations and judgments of others. It keeps you in a box, limiting your ability to grow, learn, and transform in ways that are authentic to your own journey. Furthermore, the constant pursuit of external validation can distract you from developing self-trust and confidence. When you rely on others to validate your worth or decisions, you weaken your ability to trust your own judgment and instincts. You may second-guess yourself, always looking for reassurance or approval before taking action. This erodes your confidence over time, as you become more dependent on external feedback and less sure of your own inner guidance. Instead of building a solid foundation of self-trust, you look outward for cues on how to think, feel, and behave. Seeking validation from others can lead to emotional instability. When your sense of worth is tied to how others perceive you, your mood and self-esteem fluctuate based on external feedback. Positive validation might lift you up temporarily, but any criticism, rejection, or indifference can send you spiraling into self-doubt or insecurity. This creates a roller coaster of emotions, where your sense of self-worth is constantly at the mercy of external forces beyond your control. Instead of cultivating a stable and grounded sense of self, you become reactive to the opinions and judgments of others. Seeking validation can create a sense of emptiness or disconnection from your true self. When you are always focused on gaining approval from others, you may lose sight of your own values, desires, and passions. You become more concerned with fitting in or meeting others' expectations than with pursuing what truly fulfills you. This disconnect from your authentic self can lead to feelings of dissatisfaction, as you realize that the approval you seek from others does not bring lasting happiness or fulfillment. It is only by turning inward and learning to validate yourself that you can find true contentment and a deeper sense of purpose. In conclusion, avoiding behaviors like negative self-talk, procrastination, fear of failure, blaming others, living in the past, and constantly seeking validation are crucial steps toward personal growth and empowerment. These habits limit your potential and keep you from embracing the fullness of who you are. By recognizing these behaviors and consciously shifting away from them, you reclaim your power and open yourself up to new possibilities for success, happiness, and fulfillment. It's not about being perfect, but about taking responsibility for your mindset, actions, and the way you live each day. Thank you.